All the wait is finally over. Natacha is back aboard Galopin, and she wasted no time getting herself wet and going to meet the neighbors. First up was François, just ahead of me. She went and lit him up in what she says was a bathing suit. Yeah, right. Then she swam upstream to visit Pirate Tito. Lots of love there. After being in France for the past 3 months, she washed all the dirty off of her. It had been a long time since she could dive into Galopin's backyard salted swimming pool. Of course, her fans were there to welcome her back. It'd been a long time for them too. As for me, 3 months without Nat did not mean I'd be a longing hermit. I also went back to Europe, sailed 4 islands in the company of my dear friend Peixe, and met Eduardo and his amazing Mactup whale research project, as well as this amazing Cape Verdean, Cathy, also a friend of Peixe.
I love some fish.
And she introduced me to this place, La Bodeguita de Mindelo, one of Mindelo's most entertaining bistro bar. I've been here before for dinner with Tito and Nat, but not been back there in the later hours. That's when you'll dive into the real spirit of Mindelo. Here you're bound to meet old friends and make new ones. Rarely a dull moment at La Bodeguita. Bruno brews up a drink called Bellarop, made with tons of ginger that will put hair even on a pirate. Beautiful Sonia, the bartender, makes mean mojitos with the day's fresh ingredients. Everyone that's been here has left their mark. The stories that have happened here are written on the walls. And boy, have there been stories here. Bruno runs the place. He's originally from Guadeloupe, in the French Caribbean. He cooks up quite a storm for his illustrious guest. Jason here is from Galicia. He's on shore leave for a week aboard a fishing vessel. He's the cook. Here comes mostly sailors like us, tourists and regulars from all over the city. The fun goes well into the night, and the longer you stay, the more trouble you may find yourself in. This is Mindelo, and the colorful history of seamen, liquor, and ladies goes back centuries. This is the best of Pirate Bay if you dare. That being said, all is in good fun with the right attitude. We loaded up a taxi with 4 girls, a Gallego cook, and me, and headed to Galopin. The party continued for a few hours. Then we finished at the local disco. The cook counted the hours left for him to sleep. Breakfast was to be ready by 7 on his ship. He did not get much sleep, if any at all, but his crew got all fed. It's too bad it took me so long to really discover La Bodeguita. But that's what happens when you spend a year in one place. You discover the hidden doors that lead to people and places you'd never expect. Which is what happened next. Peixe had asked me if we could go for a weekend sail. It'd be he and his son Nelson and a few other guys. There are several spots to anchor on the southwest coast of São Vicente Island, just a few nautical miles from Mindelo Bay. Peixe knows them all, as he's been many times sport fishing there. Nat was supposed to go off with her friend Emerson for a weekend joint. As it were, she came with us to get back on her sea legs. And you can always count on one person to get seasick. Never a problem for us. Louse's son Willie got adjusted quickly. We anchored at the very last hidden cove to the southwest. Me and Nat had been here several months ago. good spot, sheltered from the dominant winds. The problem is, there is little to no sand for an anchor to hold. Peixe knew this, of course. He suggested we move north to another spot where he knew the holding was better. So we went there, but the wind created short waves that bounced us around. I didn't like it. The guys went to shore to cook up Cape Verdean spaghetti on an open fire and brought it back to the boat. And just before sunset, we moved back to the sheltered cove, and Peixe got me to a spot where he knew there was sand. The anchor held there for the night, and in the morning, the mission was to catch fish for Sunday dinner. They took their spaghetti for breakfast, by the way.
Those guys asked me if I wanted to go. I'm like, you guys look like refugees from Africa. Too many people on a small boat. I told them I'll stay back here on this boat in case they float away, they lose control, so I can go and catch them.
After a few hours, the guys caught enough fish for a feast. We headed back north to another protected cove Peixe knew of. I was hesitant, but put my faith in Peixe. This is his home. He knows where to go. And here we were in a stunning spot. Although the wind blew hard from different directions, spinning around the steep cliffs, the seafloor was pure sand and Galopin held strong. I had a good view of him and felt confident. There are a few guys living here. Of course, Peixe knows them. We were warmly welcomed to this hidden spot, only accessible by boat or on foot. It reminded me of the hippies I hung out with on La Gomera Island in the Canaries, where I met Nat. But these guys are the real thing. They don't need dreadlocks, hippie garb, and to walk around naked. These guys have chosen to live outside the city with their goats, dogs, and a donkey. Amazingly, they have fresh water here, which comes from the source in a mountain. They stock it in a tank and can drink it as well as stay clean. Nat was waking up to the pure and simple life, while Ronnie was preparing fish for lunch. The guys let us use their open-air kitchen, where Peixe and Ronnie cooked up fish stew. As well, they grilled chorizo sausage we all love, except for Nat. There was lots of leftover rice that the guys fed to the starving, skinny, whining dogs. A couple of teenagers had walked along the cliffs to fish, but all they managed to catch were a few crabs. Vlaus looked at them with a hearty appetite. He'll eat anything as opposed to Peixe and Nat. Once the fish stew was ready, we loaded up the dinghy to get back to Mindelo before dark, and left some fish for the guys here. We picked up 3 boat hitchhikers, the 2 teens and one of the fellows from the camp. It seems easy enough to sail back the few miles to Mindelo, but this is far from the reality of things. It is almost always blowing 20 plus knots with 2 to 3 meter waves in your face. So forget about hoisting the sails unless you enjoy a few hours of wet suffering. But no one was suffering here. Nat took hold of the helm and was back in her element. As I said, you can always count on someone being seasick. This poor kid blew chunks, but he kept his cool and smiled. Once back home, the teens cleaned up, and poor Nelson came down with a fever. A flu had been making the rounds of the island. He was fine a few days later. It was late October. I went to another favorite spot of mine. This is Percy's bar. She calls it Broccul, which means ass, you know what. It was Halloween, so I had my costume on and met some of my best friends who were also in party mode. And later, we continued on to La Bodeguita, where we met more friends. Look who's here, Eduardo from Act 2 with his girlfriend visiting from Barcelona. It was funny that night because a bunch of Germans played ABBA music. Local girls did not dance to that groove. As for me, I would also dance to another groove. A bit less partying and more sailing stories.
Dança, nova coladeira, nova coladeira, vem dança.